So your client messages you and sends you this picture and says, I love these so much. Can you make this happen for me? And you're like, yes, I got you, but how much are you going to charge? I don't know, because look, this is where the client got it from. This is the picture that I got this from. It's from Amazon. This kit is $22. So your client is maybe expecting you to say, it's 100. I don't know, right? And so you need to put this together. You have to figure out, how in the world am I going to charge for this? Because let me tell you, it's going to be a lot more than $100. Spoiler alert. So let's get into how we are going to charge for this particular setup. So first things first, before we even start charging for this, let's take a closer look at this. And I'm going to use Amazon's here to see the full view. The first thing we need to tell our client is this is AI. And if you weren't sure of that, just look closely at it. Look at this. These this unnatural shape of balloons. Look at that with the orange ones. As we go down, like this isn't, when you look closely, look at these orange ones and these brown ones. This isn't real. If you didn't even catch in the balloons, look at this background. Look at, where are these bats even like hanging from? What perfect world is this? It's just not realistic. But AI is so good that at first glance you would believe it for sure. So this is important to be able to pick up on when something is AI, because you want to be able to share that with your client. Like, I love this so much. Of course, I want to recreate this with you. This is beautiful. FYI, this is AI, so it's not going to look exactly the same, but we're going to, get as close as possible, or however you want to put it. But that's an important expectation to set for your client. So that's what we need to take care of first, is just picking up on that. Now, the next thing is, we're going to take apart all of these pieces individually. So we're going to use my balloon job cost calculator to figure this out. And if you want this for yourself, it is available for you to get. Just go to the link in my bio. I will also link it in the description of this video and in the comments. So there's links all over the place. If you want this for yourself, it is yours. You can use it again and again and again for as many jobs as you need to. So I just want to get that out of the way. All right, but that's what we're going to use to figure this out. So let's start with the easiest thing, which is the balloons. I count 1, 2, 3, 4 colors here: red, orange, black, and brown. I prefer to get my balloons from Bargain Balloons, and I prefer the brand Decamex. So that's what I have pulled up here. So whenever I am buying balloons, I'm assuming that I am buying one of each of a 5-inch, a 12-inch, and an 18-inch balloon, or bag of balloons. So we're going to price this as if we are buying that for each of these colors. So I already did the math. That is going to be $17.77 per balloon color, and then multiply that times 4, and then add on shipping. We're at about $80 for balloons. So we'll go ahead and plug that into the job cost calculator. If you want to know more about where this is coming from, how these numbers are split up, I have lots of other videos about it. You can go take a look at those. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, so that we can kind of efficiently price this stuff. So that's our cost in balloons. Next, the next really big cost in this is going to be the florals. And that is what I just think is so misleading when somebody sees this on Amazon and sees $22 and is like, why can't you do this for me? That's a whole different look when we get these florals in here. This one in particular, this sort of arrangement, which is really cool. I love the idea of doing this, but this is not a small arrangement. So what I found here are these sort of red baby's breath. So these are going to be about $14, but that's for 12 bundles, and you need to look closely. So this is not one. This is probably 12, this picture here. This is what one looks like, is this thing right here. So 12 of these is not going to get us to this thing here. I think we're going to have to buy, I don't know, maybe 5 is my guess. 5 of these bundles of 12 to get to something similar to this arrangement over here. So that is going to be $70 right there in just these like red baby's breath. And then there's lots of other different types of florals in here. And since this is AI, it is hard to replicate exactly, which is why it's important to tell our client. But I found some other florals that are going to give a similar vibe. So I like these ones. I think that we would probably want to buy at least 2 bundles of this. So I'm keeping track of this math. I also found these hanging ones. I think these would give a very similar vibe to what we've got going with this sort of hangy stuff over here. I would probably buy 2 sets of these so that I have 6 total of these hanging things, because again, this is what 1 looks like and this is what 3 looks like. So we're not getting this for, per bundle. We're getting this per bundle. So I would buy 2 of these, and that's going to put us at $50 for those ones. And then These, let's see, let me show you these. So these are different. These are like these little bunny tails. I think that is also like gives a very, I like how similar it is to this. Again, going to need to buy more than one to get the fullness factor that we need. I think that these sort of berry stems, whatever they call faux jasmine, I would probably pick those up too, and another set of two of those. And then the last one that I found that I think is going to do a nice job of kind of giving us the same look are these pampas, black pampas. Now these, again, I can't drive this home enough. 60 pieces. Whoa, that's a ton. No, it's 60 pieces of, let's see, where is it? Where's the, sorry guys, where's the picture of just one? It shows you, there it is. That is just one. So 60 of those. So again, I'm going to buy one or two of these. So since I bought two of everything else, let's just go with one, okay? So $16. That is $228 on florals. Like, dang, okay? So, and if that, as I say, if that doesn't convince you that you need to be putting these things in thoughtfully to a job cost calculator and not just saying, I don't know, a few $100s, I don't know what will, because I mean, here we are at, what did I just say? $228. We're well over $300 and we are not even done buying supplies. So these florals, this is important, and this is one of those reasons that you can't just ask somebody, what would you charge? One of many reasons, but are you going to keep these florals, or is the client going to keep these florals? That's really important. So I'm going to pretend that we're going to get them back, because that's pretty typical. This is the type of setup that you're likely to have to come back and tear down, and then you can take your stuff back. So I'm going to put it though, because these are pretty niche, all these like blacks. These are not like they're not pink. Pink is pretty much the only floral that I know that I'm going to use again and again, pink and white. So I'm going to put them down here under infrequent use, and I said 228 on florals. So they're going down there. Now, we need to, we have these little black headstones. Well, actually, I'm sorry, before we do that, let's look at this backdrop. So the way that I would make this backdrop, another reason that you can't just ask somebody what they would charge, because there's different ways you could do this. You could do a Chiara arch metal frame with a spandex cover. You could do a foam insulation backdrop. If you have wood and you repaint, like that, it depends on how you're going to do it. I'm going to do it as if it was foam insulation that I paint, because I make a lot of backdrops like that. So we're going to get this foam insulation board, which runs close to $22. This is going to be, I'm not going to assume that this is going to be something I can reuse, because that is the thing about foam. It's cheaper, but it gets dinged up really easily, and it's usually only good for a use or maybe two if you're careful and lucky. So that, and then we are going to have to paint it, and we're assuming paint is going to run, depending on, how lucky you are. Maybe you find something in the mist tint section, maybe you don't, anywhere from like $15 to $30. So I'm just going to kind of split the difference and say 20. So that backdrop with the backdrop and the paint is going to run somewhere around $40. And that's not reusable. Now these Halloween, let's spell it right, these Halloween sign, or the letters. Now, again, does your client want exactly this? Because I'll tell you what, this is actually going to be pretty expensive, because this is not vinyl. You could vinyl this and see if your client would settle for that. It's going to bring the cost down. But if they want exactly this, these are individual letters. And the closest thing that I could find was these house numbers. And these black ones are the like the cheapest ones that I found, but these aren't black. So maybe you could talk your client into doing something where you couldn't do black on black. But if you did, they'd be $6 a piece. So I don't know, I'm just showing you that. But the other ones that I found are these ones that are closer to this color. There's gold and brass, and they're going to run anywhere. This was the cheapest one that I found in this color, anywhere from like closer to $13 or $14 per letter. But let's say we go with these ones at $9 per 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 letters in the word Halloween. So that's $81 in letters. And that's also something I'm not going to assume can be reused, because it's a very specific word. So we'll say Halloween letters and $81. All right, now let's go back to get rid of all of these, the spider web stuff around here. So that's going to be something pretty simple to buy. I found this. It's going to be about $10. Also not reusable. Spider webs. All right, and we did the letters, and then these little tombstone, gravestone things, something like this would work. So those are $20. Those are reusable, but not something you're going to reuse frequently. So tombstones. Okay, and the last thing I think is just these bats that are hanging from nowhere. Let's say you want to incorporate the bats. You can pick up something like this. They're not too crazy. Bats for $7. And then the last thing, I tried to find these like pumpkins in here, and I couldn't find like the exact thing, but I did find these. So let's say we pick up 2 of these. They're $25 a piece. So we'll put them down here for 50. Okay, so that's all of the supplies that we're going to get. Now, we're not done pricing this out. We still have to charge for our labor, which is the biggest thing, and for also other categories like our overhead. So whenever I do these examples, I'm just gonna, I like to use the example of that we're spending $100 on other supplies every month. So that's all the other stuff, the glue dots and the rubber bands and the fishing, I mean like all of the things. And we need to average that on a number of jobs that we have per month. I like to use 5 as an example when I'm running these. We're also going to use those same numbers as $100 per month on overhead divided by 5 jobs per month. You need to know your numbers in order to track this for yourself. Another reason that you can't just ask somebody how much would you charge, because your overhead and monthly expenses are probably not the same as anybody else's. So it's important to track your expenses so that you know what to put into this. Okay, and then the biggest thing is the personal fee. Again, just for the sake of example, for these videos, I like to use $60 per hour as an example of what we would do. Again, watch my other videos to see like where I get that number from. And then we need to estimate the number of hours that this is going to take. And that is probably like the hardest part as far as making sure that you get it right, because I know that I am guilty, and I bet that many of you are too, of chronically underestimating how long something is going to take. So let's just say inflating these balloons is probably going to take me, actually, I'm going to say inflating these balloons is going to take me an hour and a half. Installing this is going to take me probably 2 hours. So we're at 3.5 hours. Creating this floral, this isn't too detailed as far as like a whole bunch of different places, but you are going to have to take some time to create this. So that's probably going to take me another hour. So now we're at 4.5 hours. And then let's not forget the time that it is going to take us to drive there, to tear down, to plan this out. I've already spent probably a half an hour just like finding and sourcing all of these things. So all of that is probably going to be another hour minimum, probably hour and a half. I think it's enough to get me to 6 hours total on this project. So that's what I'm going to estimate as far as the number that it's going to take. And then the last thing that we need to always be considering is a value charge. And again, for these particular examples, I like to use either 20 or 25% as a value charge. If you can create something that looks like this is amazing, right? If you can make it look like this. So if you're replicating this, then I mean, you can probably do a 30% value charge, but I'm going to go ahead and put 25 here just for the sake of, keeping things applicable to more people. So with all of that, before the value charge, we were sitting at $767. After the value charge, and the value charge is important. Again, go to my other videos to hear more about that, but that's where your profit's coming from. And that's going to put us at $958. So remember what we found this on Amazon for? $22. And then this is why we've got to talk to our clients, so that when they hear that, no, this is actually going to be $958, and you can round. I like to round. I'd probably round this to $950, maybe $975. So that you can kind of explain. And if somebody's like, this is not within my budget, then you can be like, okay, hey, like the florals are definitely like the biggest part of this. If we can, cut back on the florals, or maybe do something a little bit different with the backdrop. There's all kinds of ways that you could bring the cost of this down, but if we're trying to recreate this look, that's what it's going to be. So, and then the other nice little thing about my calculator is that you can see, because when, nearly $1,000 sounds like a really big number, but your net profit is actually only sitting here at $190, which is a nice profit. It's a profit margin of 20%, which is decent. But, it's not like you're pocketing $1,000. You are putting in time, you're putting in labor. And when you are charging for this, you are charging for your skill and your expertise and knowing about things that other people don't know, knowing about products that that people didn't even know existed, knowing how to do things that other people don't know how to do, being willing to do things that other people are not willing to do. You are charging for that. So I want you to keep these things in mind when you see this number and you think, how could I possibly ask somebody to pay me that? You can. Because if they don't want to pay, that's okay. That's okay. Balloons, nobody needs balloons. Nobody will die if they don't get balloons at their party. This is a luxury service, and it is okay for us to charge as if it is a luxury service, because it is. So I hope that gives you a little bit of confidence next time you run this and you actually realize that you need to quote bigger numbers maybe than you have been. And if you've already been quoting these numbers appropriately, then good for you. But this is a fair number. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know that's what I'm all about. We need to be fair to ourselves and fair to our client. This is not an overcharge. This is not taking them for all their worth. This is being fair for what is being put in. Okay, I know I've been going on and on. I could keep going. I get on a soapbox about this, but I will drop it here. One more thing I'll just show you. You maybe have already picked up on it, but there's another little thing down here. If this is somebody that you do want to give a discount to, I have an example up here of 10%. Maybe you want to give them a 15% discount. You can just put that in here and it's going to calculate what the discount is going to be and then what the total would be after that discount. So I hope that helps. If you have questions, please let me know. If you have an image or a setup that you would like me to price next time I do one of these, I'd be happy to do it. Send it along. Any questions, anything at all, I'm here for it. So again, I hope this helps. Happy ballooning.